Welcome, my dear channel viewers and virtualization enthusiasts. I have just finished recording the video about the first date with VMware A6i, and I thought, why don't I give you a chance to look at other virtualization platforms before I go to sleep? I am a bit sleepy, but hopefully it doesn't show that much. This video is going to show you how can you use Amazon Web Services to deploy virtual machines. And the biggest difference in the concept is that in this case, you're going to use cloud provider infrastructure from Amazon Web Services. So you wouldn't be deploying your own ESXi. You wouldn't be creating machines that you can physically observe on the storage. Everything would be happening in the cloud, and you would be only provided with a console. This is something that a user can feel when they use VMware infrastructure for ESXi. So you don't have administrator privileges, but you can deploy and you can run and you can delete your own virtual machines. So let's look into this. In order to actually be able to do that, and this is another benefit, you don't need to have your data center. You don't need to have a hardware at all. And this is how Amazon sells all of this. Basically, you only need to have a willing to pay, and you need to have a reason to actually deploy machines. Uh, it is our luck that we can use these services for free. For a year, you have access to free tier of Amazon Web Services and Elastic Cloud Storage, Elastic Computing Storage. In order to get access, you need to create an account on Amazon and you need to sign up for this free tier usage. It's pretty easy. You can look it up on Google if you want. I don't want to show you the steps. I'm not a salesman for Amazon and I have nothing to do with them. I just wanted to show you how you can deploy a lab for free, at least for a year. And this allows you to deploy almost any machine instantly because in vSphere, in VMware ESXi, when you create a machine, you still need to connect an image and you still need to deploy it unless you already have OVA or OVF template provided to you. Amazon provides you a lot of templates, so you just need to start them. So you need to sign in into your console. This is where you have access to all your resources. And before you start using it, before you sign up for free tier, I must warn you just out of goodwill so you would know what you are getting into. So Amazon Web Console, Amazon EC2 is not free per se. It does cost money to run it. However, they have a program called free tier which can be mostly used for learning purposes. I think it exists in order to provide you the very basics so you could learn how cool it is and you would buy it. That's a pretty good sales move. However, I find it very useful for my personal trainings. And what it means that after a year, you will be charged unless you opt out, as I understand. So you need to provide your credit card, but you can always cancel it. You could either provide throwaway card or the card which you don't use for your mortgage, basically something that you know that you can use for such online services. I have a special card to opt into different online training and other type of products. After you provide this billing information, you will not be charged. I already just tested. I moved all the money from the card. I had nothing. I applied for it and I started working with it. But just to be sure, this service will cost eventually. For a year, it's free and it has its limits. So if you do overcome these limits, you'll also have to pay for extra. But I'll show you what it is about. So the limits are about for how long you run your virtual machines in total, how much space they take on the disk, and how much traffic you use to go to them and back. So you cannot deploy a machine and use it like a download server for your game or program and hope it's forever free for a year. There is a limit, but if you want to know the limit, this is how you can do it. After you log into the console, you're presented with tons of services. In the top left, you have this services view, right? So this is where you have this specific button, and this button allows you to see all the services you have. So here you are interested in EC2 service, which allows you to control and launch instances of virtual machines. And there is also somewhere here billing, if I can find it. Billing, 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 billing. Let me try it through Control F. Control F, billing. Here it is on the left. Yeah. So this billing, which can also be accessed through your account, I believe, here, my account, my billing dashboard, shows you what you need to pay. In this case, I have to pay 0 because I don't use it much. And this is where you can see your free tier usage limits. For example, I can use up to 30 gigabytes of block storage, basically cloud storage for my machine. And that's enough for me. I can create machines, I can delete them. This is mostly for basically practicing. You can imagine you cannot use a real life like database server with only 30 gigabytes of space. I mean, you could, but probably only if you're a small business. You can also run it only for 750 hours per month. So if it's only one machine, of course, it's okay. But if you have five or six, you have to shut them down periodically. And different regions have different hardware resources. Tier 2 micro or Tier 3 micro. Basically, the machine is limited on how much RAM and CPU it can have. And also there is a limit of total bandwidth to and from this machine. I used only like less than percent per month, but it can add up if you use it often. And there are some extra limits you can learn about, but typically you can use it for lab, for testing purposes. You cannot really use it for free for real infrastructure unless you want to deploy a small server, like for your local accounting or something. So how do we deploy a server? Let's go back to the main window, and this is where you can find the EC2, which I favorited with a star, so you can put a star next to it, and then it appears in your recently visited services. So EC2 is the virtualization web interface. In the backend, it uses its own cloud platform with some kind of hypervisor. I don't honestly recall. I looked it up, but I forgot what kind of hypervisor. It doesn't matter to you because you're not going to manage it. It's for Amazon support. And before you start using any machines, you'll have to create a way to authenticate into the machine. And in order to make the first login into the machine, Amazon Web Services uses a specific type of authentication called key pair. So the server has a public key and you have a private key. It's like two encryption passwords. And if you provide the correct private key, the public key will let you in. And to have this private key, you need to click on key pairs. And this is where you can create a new one. As you see on the top right, uh, let me show it here. You have a button, create key pair. And this button will allow you to make a new key pair. Like you'll name it, you'll select the type, PEM or PPK, for example, for most of standard control tools for SSH connection and other connections. You use PAM. If you use PuTTY or PuTTY, you would want to use PPK. Of course, you can also convert between these types of keys if you actually use special converter. So let's say I want to make like PuTTY PPK file, right? I name it like this, I select the type, I create it, and this downloads the file on my computer. So now I must keep this PPK file on my computer for initial logins in the server where I use this key pair. So don't delete this file. Of course, you can remake it. There are probably some ways to recover it, but for your own safety, it's like your password. Don't delete it. Don't lose it. And now if you open it, like, let's see what's inside. If you open it with text editor, you'll see that it's actually a text file, this specific comment, which doesn't matter much. And then it has the actual key, and this long sequence of different symbols is your actual private key. So why do we want this key? Well, this key can be used to basically impersonate you, to let you log in to the server. If it's a Windows computer, it's going to basically let you decrypt administrator password until you change it. So the first, you have some kind of default password generated, you use this key to decrypt it. But we'll be playing with Linux a bit, because usually this is what people are interested in. It's something that some people don't have at home. So now that I have a key pair, I'm going to go to my instances. Instances are my machines. So instances are virtual machines. Now I have my Amazon Linux here, which is stopped because I don't want to run it when I don't use it. Why waste resources, right? Even if it's free, why would I want to waste it? And then I have to make a new machine to show you how it works. Uh, a few comments about specific terminology of AWS. So in the instance state, in this menu, you can start, reboot, and stop your instances, your virtual machines. Please pay close attention to the button called Terminate Instance. Terminate may make you think that you are stopping it, like forcibly. However, in Amazon, terminate means delete. Your instance will be terminated, and after a while, it will disappear. So Don't use it unless you want to get rid of the machine. This is how you can lose your practical useful machine. And also, if you want to make a new machine, the action is called launch, like a rocket. So launch doesn't mean start your existing machine that you have selected. If you want to start the selected machine, you will go to instance state start. Launch means make a new one. And this you can select a template or you have a general launch instances. So you can select the template you upload, but we'll use a default action. So here you have a lot of images which are already prepared for you to use. So that's one of the most beautiful things about Amazon Web Services. Not all of them are available to you because some of them require more resources than usual and they actually require extra keys like enterprise standard, which also means that you need to purchase specific license. You can select free tier only on the left, this small checkbox right here. And this checkbox allows you to uh, see only what's suitable for you, right? So let's say with Red Hat Linux. I can select type of processor, so it could be like ARM, which is typically used for mobile devices. If I don't make a mistake, it's like a simpler architecture. Let's use standard 64-bit CPU on x86 architecture. So as soon as I select the operating system image, the next step is what kind of hardware. And here we basically have the option to use our free tier. Otherwise, we have to pay unless we get some extra trials. So let's not go into the paid options. We'll use our free tier as possible. And then you just click review and launch. And here you have your free tier 2 micro instance type with Red Hat Linux. And then you have some extra settings you can modify, but this is already set up. So the only thing left is to click launch, right? And then this is where you select your key pair. So I will select the PuTTY, the new one that I have, right? And I acknowledge that I have access to this key. So basically, you prove that you do have this key before you make a machine with this key, just so you would know what you are doing. You wouldn't create a login type without the file that you have. And as soon as you launch it, it starts launching. That's it. And you just need to wait a bit before it starts. It's pending, but in a moment it will be running. And now you can click on this name, which is dash, and name it like Red Hat. You can put any name you want. And this can actually provide you with public IP of the server. So you can connect to this computer from any place, as long as you have this key that you downloaded. So it's not like anybody can connect to it and log in. Only those people who have the key. So let me take a look at the key. I'm going to grab it from my downloads folder, and I'm going to switch to my PuTTY folder. Here we go. So this is my key, this is my PuTTY. I'm going to provide my public IP. I didn't copy it here. I need to grab my public IP. Control C, Control V it here. So I'm going to connect to my Linux through SSH. If it would be Windows, I could use remote desktop. And here in SSH settings, in authentication, I need to click browse and select the key, which is my PuTTY. And I think that's it. I just need to provide a username, I believe. That is in the data, and I think it's EC2-user. I may be wrong, but then the login wouldn't work. So this is the default user for your default key, EC2-user, and the key is provided in the auth settings. So this should allow me to connect as soon as the instance is running. And look, it is running. Red Hat running. This is the ID which basically is used by hypervisor and my public IP address. So let's try to see if it works. Okay, so it seems to be working because it's asking me about the fingerprint, which I don't have. So security key. I say that I trust it. And we are in. We don't even need to provide username and password. Now you can create users which will be used to log in remotely, or you could keep logging in using this private key and this EC2 user. So if you type who am I, you'll see you are this EC2 user, and instead of password, you use the key. And this is a fully functional um, Red Hat Linux Enterprise. So you can see that it's fully functional. This is your root partition. If you go to var log, what I like to do to see how it works, you have all the logs, you have messages, which I have to do sudo because otherwise I don't have permissions. And here you can see that you actually work in fully functional system, and you could deploy Windows the same way, just mind the restrictions. Well, you wouldn't be able to overcome restrictions of the instance type of the hardware, but you still have total time to run the instance and total traffic. However, I find this very useful to deploy any type of operating system that they have to practice. And you can also upload and deploy your own images. One more thing I wanted to show you is that right now, this system has only one partition, right, which is mounted on, where is it here? On root, right? And this is the volume, which is basically a system volume of 10 gigabytes. What if you wanted to add extra space to this machine? In EC2, you do not create virtual disks, you create virtual volumes. On the left, you should have volumes. Let me draw it for you here so it's visible. Here you have volumes button. And if you go to the volumes, you can create new volumes in your allocated storage. So right now, like you can see, I have already some created. So I can create new ones with the button create volume. I can give it, let's say, 1 gigabyte just for the testing purposes. And uh, I need to put it in the same availability zone. This is something I didn't show you briefly. So if you go back to my instances, I can see in which location basically it runs. In this case, it's EU Central 1B, right? So in this location, I have my instance, my virtual machine. So this is where I need to create my volume. That's why all my volumes are in the same location. So if I go to this 1B location, uh, and I give it 1 gigabyte, I can also encrypt it if I really want to. I don't want to do that right now, but it's possible. This volume is created immediately. And now you see it in the volume list in a second. Hold on. Yeah, here it is, 1 gigabyte. So you can also name it, like you click it, name it 1 GB volume, or whatever you want. So now you have this extra storage space, which you could use for user data. I mean, you could also extend your existing um, operating system volume. This is my 10 gigabyte volume, which I just made. Uh, you can see it's attached to a specific machine here in attachment information. It's called Red Hat. It's my machine. And I can name it like OS Red Hat. So you could extend it. However, maybe you wouldn't want to have the same like user data and files and programs. You don't want to have them on the same volume as the system, especially if you want to backup only the user data. It's better to keep it on a smaller disk, a separate disk that you can backup, because the system disk is basically a factory. You can replace it if it breaks. So this volume right now is unattached. And in VMware, you would go to virtual machine settings to attach a volume, something I will show you later once we discuss how to deploy a machine. It's a bit more complicated. Here, you attach the volume to the machine from volume list. So not from the VM list, where you would get the volume list, but from volume list, where you get the VM list. It's a bit of a different logic. So you right-click it here, and you can select the option to attach volume, which allows you to pick the instance. In my case, it's only two available, so I attached to my Red Hat, and I can select the type of device. Well, let's say, what is the name of the device? It's SDF. And it gives you a good information that it can actually become XVDP instead of XVDF, for example. So the devices can change. As you attach it, now it's part of the computer. So it's part of your Linux machine. It will take a moment. So it should stop showing you this loading icon on the left. And then it will become, now it's a part of your machine. Now that the volume is attached, you can actually go back to your Linux machine, and if you check df here, uh, pardon, if you check df command, you still have your standard device xvda2 and nothing else because you haven't formatted the newly attached volume and you haven't mounted it. So we want to list our block level device. This is not a Linux tutorial, so don't pay attention too much to the commands if you don't know. But basically, you are checking what device you have. Now you have a new device, and as the system told you, it is XVDF. So it's a new name which is appearing as an 1 gigabyte disk. So the only thing left to do, let's check what we have on it. It's dev xvdf device. This is an empty device. There is raw data, nothing on it. So we can format it. Um, I believe it's mkfs, make file system. Let's make it ext4 on the device xvdf. Now we can see that it's actually formatted as a ext file system. And the only thing left is that you want to mount it somewhere. So let's make a directory called user data, right? So now we have a folder user data. If you check, it's empty, right? And now you can mount your device, sudo mount devxvdf into the folder user data. Pardon, it's mount, not mount. So now you have the disk of 1 gigabyte connected. If you check df, you have this device mounted to the user data. So this is how you can attach a new volume to the Linux machine. So in the web browser interface, it's just a few clicks to create new volume and to attach it. Now, for example, you can go and you can detach it. We will remove it from the machine. And if you go here and you check, it still has a mount point because you need to actually mount it for the proper cleanup. Okay. Um, well, you can deploy Windows machine in the same manner. You can deploy Linux, Unix, Nano, different types of operating system. You can even deploy images which already have database, some applications pre-installed. EC2 allows you to have much more done. There are like instances which already run everything installed and you only use it for, let's say, code compiling or graphical design. But I was interested in the virtual machine part. So analogy is the following. You still have a web console. You still make a new machine. You can create a new storage and you can allocate resources. That's what is the same between VMware SXI and Amazon Web Services. The difference is that in case of your VMware SXI, it is installed in your data center on your computer. So technically you pay for the hardware that you buy. It may be a lot of money if you need to run the park, but then you keep using it and you only pay for electricity and some maintenance like part replacement. In Amazon, you do not buy any hardware. You only pay for what you use, but you do have to pay for the traffic, for the running machine time, and for the space you allocate. And typically, if you're a small business, you need to weigh what costs more. What reality shows, the cloud solutions are actually cheaper to run than to make your own data center. Of course, the downside is that you basically have your files elsewhere, even encrypted. And if I was learning, I wouldn't be able right now to go and check which files I made and how does it work under the hood. That's why I really love VMware SXI because I can actually see everything, how it works, how it functions. However, this is a very useful tool if you want to actually practice not virtualization itself, but a different operating system. So if you want to play with Linux, with Windows, with different programs without fear of breaking your computer, you can deploy any available operating system here and do what you want within the limits of free tier, of course, unless you want to pay for it. But it's still a very easy way to get your computer up and running. For example, imagine you're a programmer, you need specific Linux distribution and you want to test how your program runs there. You could compile your program for Linux on your Windows computer, but normally you would have to find some other computer or do a dual boot with Linux to test how it works. Here you can deploy Linux of any versions available here on the site and test your program there. Like it's amazing in this regard. I used to make some small games. It's not really games, it's more like practicing programming. But I was always curious how they would work on Mac and on Linux, and I always had trouble finding volunteers to test them. Now I can do it myself in a few minutes. Well, if you have any questions about AWS, I'm still learning it myself. Honestly, here I'm learning user part, right? It's not like I'm going to check the host logs, I'm going to break the machines and see the files on the storage. But it's still interesting, and if you're curious, we can explore this world together. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. I hope I can see you in the next video, and have a nice day. Bye bye.